Hey there, friends. How's it going? My name's Popeye. Today we got some more Umineko. Before we get into it, this game has some trigger warnings that I want to go into. Not that we've encountered any of these yet, but this is a pretty mature game. It deals with things such as death, dismemberment, blood, gore, murder. I think suicide's in here at some point as well. Basically any of those things involving a minor as well. So yeah, that's it. Those are your trigger warnings for this. Hello, Samses. Hello, Chaos. How's everyone doing? So last time we went to dinner where we basically waited for our grandfather to come and join us, and he instead lamented the fact that everyone here is just out for his money and no one can do anything to help him find his witch friend. We learned a bit of backstory about the witch. So what we've learned is there's a giant portrait of her that he's commissioned only in the past year or two that sits just at the top of the stairs, which I imagine be a pretty important place. Anyone going upstairs or into the more private areas of the house would have to pass by it. And what else? Apparently the witch is supposed to live in the forest and is rumored to have given him, the grandfather, all of his starting capital, which was, I think they said 10 kilograms of gold in roughly the end of World War II times. So, I don't know how much 10 kilos of gold goes for now. Probably a lot. 10 kilos of gold in, like, 1943 probably went a whole lot further. And hello, Beardy. What is this? Why is you the only letter of the alphabet that has double? So, in French, W, because it looks like this, is actually called W, double V. Because the French thought it looked more like a V, and or two V's. And if you're not doing cursive, I totally agree. And I think as a whole, as a society, we're moving away from cursive to electronic anyways. Does people have functional brains? 15 days early. Someone hide that information from Panic. Alright, we were just gonna go out to the beach. We were gonna go and do kid stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot the part where... So that's what the kids were doing. The adults are having a very mature conversation where no one was yelling or calling anyone names. Nope, not at all. About what happens to the estate once the grandfather dies. And lots of the siblings are very concerned. The eldest child, he has put a lot of money into various business projects that have all failed, including this island. Apparently the guest house we're staying in is supposed to be his new hotel. That no one knows how he's got the money for it, since he has so many failed things and has quite a large amount of debt. So, they made the accusation that he's absconding funds. So, that's kind of what the adults are doing. Thank you for the lurk. Do any of them have their own children? Yes, in fact, we can look at the whole family tree. Much easier than Elon Musk's, if I figure out the right button to push. There we go. There's only like 4 buttons on my mouse. But as you can see here, this has a click counter. We've already clicked over 4,000 times. But if we go to characters, we've actually filled out the full family tree now. So we've got our grandfather, who has 4 kids. Kraus is the one that we think is embezzling. This is our aunt. She's kind of like a fireball. If you listen to her voice, you may recognize her voice actress. Actually, there's probably several here. I haven't gone through all the voice actors. That's something that's been on my list. But hers in particular, if you've been in here before for Uncle Hunter, you should hopefully recognize her voice. We've got our dad, who apparently just likes to go fool around with women, even though he's married. And then we've got our the youngest child, Rosa, who apparently had a child with a commoner who's not in the picture anymore. We're not sure what's happened to him. Not sure if he's dead, if there was a divorce, if they were just never married. We're not quite sure what happened there. We've got us. We've got all the siblings. We've got all of our cousins. We've got the doctor, who is not quite a servant, but he's just kind of here because he's an old family friend and concerned about our grandfather's health. But our grandfather doesn't listen to him, so yeah, I'm not sure what good the doctor's doing there. And then we have all the servants. So we've got the head servant. We've got Shannon and Ken, who are siblings. We've got Goda, who is the chef. And then Kumasawa, who is just kind of the person who does everything else. You know, tea, cleanup, that kind of stuff. And yeah. Deadbeard was caught eating the green gelato. Man, I haven't thought about the green gelato in so long. But yeah, so we're about to go out to the beach, so let's see what Shannon has to say before we head out.
皆様、ここにいらっしゃられたんですか。てっきり海岸へ行かれたとばかり。
Shannon Chen, carrying a basket, was surprised to find us all gathered in front of the portrait.
シャノンか。いやさ、バトラはベアトリーチェの肖像画を初めて見るからさ。まあ、見とれてたってわけだぜ。
そうですね。見とれちゃいますね。ベアトリーチェ様って本当にお綺麗です。さぞや親方様を虜になさったろうと思います。
Thank you for having me up.
パトロン説の他にもおじい様の初恋の人だという説もあるんだ。
Okay, so we're getting new lore. So, as well as being his patron, so the person who gave him all his money, apparently, the witch was grandfather's first love as well.
彼女に出会ってから数十年を経ているだろうにもかかわらず、今なお心の
And
中
I
に
know,
大き
I
く
think
居
they
座
said
り続
grandma
けているん
passed
だ。
away just a few years ago.
それは今なお虜にしているということなんだろうね。
やれやれ。これじゃ。
Oh, and here on the left, I think, is the epitaph that they were talking about. So there's some kind of epitaph here that they think is a riddle that will lead you to the gold.
私はよく知らねえけど、やっぱりそういうのはあったらしいぜ。ばあ様は金髪の浮気相手がいると信じてたらしいな。
ほう、いい匂い。シャノンからいい匂い。
Maria, you can't just smell people. Maria, sniffing, approached the basket Shannon Chan was holding with interest. Now that you mentioned it, I do notice a fragrant scent with the essence of vanilla.
申し訳ございません。熊沢さんからこれを皆さんにお届けするようにことづかりました。
なんだろう。素敵だね。クッキーだ。
クッキー食べたい。クッキー食べたい。ええ、お召し上がりいただけますよ。でも。
Unsure whether it was really acceptable to serve cookies in a place like this in front of the portrait, Shannon Chen sent us a glance which seemed to ask what we wanted to do. Thinking about it, yeah, that would be bad manners.
ここじゃなくてよそで食べようぜ。クッキーをお弁当にピクニックに行こう。
ピクニック行こう。ピクニック行こう。クッキー食べれるなら行こう。
そうだな。ちょっと表の空気を吸いに行くか。
And for all of you who love double, saying things in double, I hope you enjoy Maria, because that's all she says.
魔女様の御前でつまみ食いもねえもんだぜ。
そうだ。もともと私たちは浜辺に行こうって言ってたんじゃねえか。行こうぜ行こうぜ。
シャノンちゃん、申し訳ないんだけど、腰を下ろせる敷物と水筒にお茶を入れてきてもらうのをお願い。
はい、かしこまりました。
Shannon Chen received her instructions and gracefully bowed before retracing her steps. We headed for the beach on our own. Everyone headed for the entrance in a group. Feeling as though that witch was staring down at our backs, I turned around once more.
バトラー、まだ信じてない？
いや、信じるぜ。その方が夢があるしな。黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェがじい様に10トンの黄
Sorry,
金を
apparently it was
授けた。
tons, not kilograms, which is a lot more.
それで、その黄金がどこかに眠っているかもしれない。しかもそいつを、じい様は怪しげな碑文に書き残し、こういうロマンはあった方がいいってもんさ。
200億円の黄金か。
Okay, so 20 billion yen. Assuming the exchange rate is, when are we? We're now in the mid 70s. Assuming the exchange rate is the same, which I'm sure it wasn't, but I don't know what the exchange rate was in the 70s. That would be what? About 200 million US dollars?
私たち4人で山分けしたってとんでもない金額になるな。
一人頭50億円か。すごいね。それだけあったらどんな事業でも起こせそうだよ。いや、そもそも働かずに生涯を優雅に過ごせるだろうね。
He says as if they don't already live fabulously.
50億円よりクッキークッキー。
マリアには金よりクッキーだな。しかし、50億円か。バカバカしい。まさかお前たちは親父殿の黄金伝説を本当に信じているのかね。
魔女が黄金を与えた云々はさすがに信じねえさ。だが黄金の話だけは間違いじゃない。
お父様が出自不明の金塊を持っていたことは複数の筋から確認され
Her
ているわ。
voice might recognize.
死んだマルソーの会長は生前、お父様に某所で積み上げられた金塊を実際に見せられたという。お父様はそれを指して10トン分あるとはっきり明言したわ。
How can there still be 10 tons worth? Was he not spending it?
老いぼれのざれ言じゃないか。
Did he only ever use the gold as collateral for other things? I mean, that would be like a, what's that, a Ponzi scheme, just using the gold as collateral for a crap ton of different loans?
親父殿と一緒に存在しない黄金の存在をでっち上げただけだ。
I don't think the final boss is a lawyer with a gun.
取るにも足らない。
Considering we've already filled out all the characters for this one.
存在せん黄金にあないな軍資金は集まらへんで。会長さんは生前その真摯なお人柄であれだけ大勢の財界人から尊敬を集めたお人や。詐欺の片棒なんか担がへん。
兄貴、マルソーの会長は確かに見たんだ。10トンの黄金をはっきりとその目で。しかも親父はそのインゴットの一つを任意で抜き取ら
That
せ、
would be a fun plot
会長
twist
に持ち帰ら
if
せ
all
て
the
鑑定させ
occult
た。
books in his like study, it's just like law textbooks, and they're like, I don't know what this is. This just looks like some like occult stuff, magic, because I don't understand it.
それは10キロのインゴットで、鑑定結果は純度49。インゴット表面には後ろ宮家の家紋である片翼の鷲が刻印されていたという。
後ろ宮の黄金伝説は瞬く間に財界のフィクサーたちの間に広がったわ。鋳造元不明の黄金は換金率が悪い。ボロ儲けのチャンスだと思った彼らはそれを担保に見込
Okay,
み、
he's literally doing what I said would be a giant Ponzi scheme. He's using the gold as collateral on loans.
バカバカしいにも程があるじゃないか。お前たちはいくつになるんだ。 まだそんな子供の頃のおとぎ話を真に受けているのかね。第一、その10トンの黄金の証拠はどこにあるんだ。親父殿と親交の深かったごく一部の人間のざれ言だけじゃないか。 もちろん口伝だけさ。でもよ兄貴、親父が調達した莫大な金はそれに見合う担保が必要だった。仮に黄金がデマでもそれに匹敵する価値あるお宝を親父が見せたのは紛れもない事実じゃねえ。
What else would he have had? Because this was before he had the island, right? Before he had anything.
都市空間の親父殿が作った黄金幻想さ。
Oh, because he's just saying he lied.
ありもしない黄金をあるかに振る舞い、スポンサーたちを騙したんだ。一世一代の大博打だったのだろう。運よくその資産の運用に成功できた。もし当時の外需拡大がなかったら後宮家の再興はならず、親父殿は正規のペテン師として追われていただろう。
じゃあクラウス兄さんは黄金など最初から存在せず、全てお父さんのでっち上げだ言うんか？
もちろんさ。だから十分な成功を収めた後には黄金幻想など面倒なだけだった。だから親父殿は魔女だの黒魔術だのとわけのわからないことを後に言い出して信憑性を薄めた。
Okay, so he's saying he made up the story, but then people were interested in the gold. So then he's like, "Oh, a witch gave it to me." And then everyone's like, "Okay, he's just crazy liar, man."
つまり黄金幻想がでっち上げであることを明かしたのだよ。魔女に黄金を授かったなどと言えば、もはや誰も黄金の存在を信じたりはしまい。あるいはお前たちのために言い出したのかもしれないな。なのにありもしない黄金を遺産分配に含めて議論しようというバカな息子たちが現れる。
Okay, if I'm Kraus right now, and I truly believe this gold does not exist, let's assume that's what he believes, he's not putting up a front, then I'd be like, sure, when we divide up his stuff, you can have all the gold. I'm getting his mansion and his liquid assets. If you find the gold, it's all yours, my friend.
ローザ、まさかお前が
There's Professor Longer Parts and Professor Longest Parts. They were the characters from Luigi's Mansion that no one remembers. We all just collectively blocked them out of our consciousnesses.
私は
I
お
mean,
父様
is
が
Panic's
本当に
pond
黄金
made
を
out
持
of
っていたか
gold?
どうかを確かめることはできない。
I say as if I haven't actually been to the pond.
でもお父様の4人の子供の一人として正当な分を主張したいだけよ。
ほう、ローザも言うようになったじゃないか。なるほど。お前たちはこう言いたいわけかね。私が黄金を独り占めしようとしていると。
兄さんが莫大な軍資金を調達したのは事実。それがお父様の個人資産の横領では断じてありえないというなら、つまりはそういうことよ。
兄貴はすでに10トンの金塊を見つけてるんじゃないかって。俺たちはそう見てるのさ。
I don't actually remember if he had foot pedals. He might have had foot
バカ
pedals.
バカしい。そんなものは元より存在しない。
じゃあ説明なさいよ。
Only if he tears up the flower and puts it on his feet.
お父様の財産の横領、お父様の隠し黄金、そのどちらでもないなら、どうやってあれだけの軍資金を調達できたっていうの？
I hope after all this it just goes, wow, that was a great time at the beach.
私にも政界財界に友人が多くいてね。
They are the Flower Brigade.
彼らから協力を得ただけに過ぎんよ。それについてお前たちに説明する義務はない。 分かっているだろう。話せぬ方面の筋も。
Beardy's feet? Those are the hair tickled feet, because the beard reaches all the way down to them.
兄貴がそうだと言い張るんならそれでいいさ。でもよ兄貴、親父は長くない。
Actually, Beardy, if you're sitting cross-legged, does the beard touch your like thighs and your feet? Does it get to that point?
来年の今日まで生きてるなんて誰にも保証できねえんだぜ。親父が死ねばその時点で遺産相続だ。俺たちは全員の立場から中立な弁護士と会計士を立てて親父の財政上。
その時お父様の資産に兄さんが不当な干渉をしていることが発覚したならお分かりね。
何の話だかさっぱりわからんね。妻でなくても憤慨したい気持ちだ。
お父さんの黄金はもちろんお父さんの財産や。表に出せん金やっちゅうのも分かっとる。しかし4人に公平な権利があるはずや。つまり兄貴が黄金を独り占めしていないかどうか、兄貴についても財務状況を調査させてもらうぜってこと。
いい機会じゃない。兄さんの言うところの友人知人にバックアップしてもらったというところを証明なさいよ。そうすれば兄さんは潔白。私たちはくだらない疑いを持ってしまったことを一切よく謝れるわ。
That is Oblivion.
ねえ、ローザ。
そうね。クラウス兄さんこそ話をはぐらかしてるわ。やましいところがないというなら証明してくれればいいだけの話なのに、兄さんはまるで取り合おうとしてくれない。
You install it, but every time you run a command, there's like a 1 in 1 million chance that it just deletes every like file in your just rm-rf your root folder, and that's why it's called Oblivion.
だがまあ兄貴の立場にも配慮するさ。親父の名代ということで俺たちより一つ多く責任を背負ってるところもあるだろう。今まで散々気楽に過ごしてきた俺たちがそれを察しないでブーブー言うのはこりゃフェアな話じゃないぜ。
ほう、さっきから落とされたり持ち上げられたりと忙しい。本題に入りたまえ。
つまりな、お父さんの財産をあれこれ調べてクラウス兄さんの言う通りうまく説明できん金の動きもあるやろ。そこを理解した上でわしらは兄さんに相談を持ってきたんや。
Sounds like everyone else has already talked about this before coming to Kraus. Can you rename command? I mean, you can alias something. I don't know if you can rename. Could you? Because it still has to store that information somewhere in the OS, right? Could you go into that and just change like the name of the file that it's importing? I'm not sure if that's a thing it would let you do.
お互いにとって
相談？ほう。
遺産分配時に今日まで親父の面倒を見てきてくれた兄貴のご苦労を最大限に汲み取り分配に寛大な理解を示そうってことさ。
間違えないでよ。
Yeah, the original is still reserved. It's like if you have quote add and add quote, and one alias is the other, you can still call both.
別に私たちの権利を放棄するって言ってるわけじゃない。ただ、その権利を主張する際に、兄さんの立場に立った寛大な理解があってもいいんじゃないかしら、ということなのよ。
つまり、条件を飲んでくれたら。
I would assume
わしらは遺産
that
分
you
配時
can't
に
rename
お
it to
父さんの財
something
務状況調査
that
を
already
クラウス兄さんに
exists.
一任してもいいっちゅうこっちゃ。
No, apparently you can. It's just everything's broken. Oh, they didn't read that one out loud. All the siblings from Eva downward suspected that Kraus was trying to steal their father's wealth. In that situation, letting Kraus report on the state of their father's wealth by himself was extremely contradictory and a huge concession. If, as they claimed, Kraus was actually embezzling money, Kraus would be able to hide that fact. Besides that, it would also be possible for him to control the distribution of the inheritance in a manner favorable to himself. Kraus, also realizing that this sounded too good to be true, couldn't help but feel doubt. He had to worry about what they would ask in return for such a compromise.
ほう。信用ゼロの私に長兄としての信頼を返してくれるというのか。その見返りは何だね。
同じ兄弟としての公平な権利さ。俺たちの兄貴は親父の財産をかすめ取るようなやつじゃない。だがしかし兄貴に融資するパトロンも存在しない。となりゃつまりこういうことなら兄弟は納得するわけさ。
兄さんは10トンの黄金を見つけ、それを担保に軍資金を作った。そう、お父様がかつてそうしたようにね。
そういうことならお父さんの財務状況におかしな点は一切あらへん。クラウス兄さんはずっとお父さんの世話をしてきた高校息子や。そないな人を信用せんわけにはいかへん。
回りくどくて分かりづらいな。もっとはっきり具体的に言いたまえ。
条件の一つ目。まず兄貴は親父の黄金を見つけていたことを認めること。
ありもしない黄金を私が持っていると認めろと。
条件2、その黄金について兄弟の取り分を認めこれを支払うこと。
バカな。
Okay, so if I'm understanding them, they're basically saying, we'll believe what you're saying about our dad's finances, and you can distribute it. So, for example, if you want the island and you want us to have the liquid cash, fine. But what we want in return is for you to legally admit that you found this 10 tons of gold, and 20 tons of gold, and we each want 5 tons of it. And what they're banking on here is that that gold doesn't actually exist, and he's paying them out of pocket for that to cover up the fact that he's actually embezzling funds. That way they don't have to bring lawyers into it, they don't have to do anything else. They're essentially recouping their money that he's embezzled through this gold.
ありもしない200億の黄金について一人頭50億、合計150億を支払えというのか。バカバカしい。
最後まで聞きなあれ。そない大金出てくるのは分かっとる。できへん取引はするつもりないで。もちろん黄金の取り分についてもクラウス兄さんの今日までのご苦労を十分にねぎらって換算するつもりや。
条件3、黄金の分配は後ろ宮本家当主跡継ぎの肩書きに 50%、 残りを兄弟の正当な取り分として分割。
20 tons 4-way. They're splitting, he gets 10, and they're splitting 10 3 ways.
もちろんクラウス兄さんもこれには含めるわよ。
Oh, even splitting that 4 ways. So he would get 50% plus a quarter of 50%. Another, was that an eighth? So he would get 5/8 and everyone else would get 1/8. Didn't think you were going to be doing math right now, did you?
125億を兄貴に、25億をエヴァ姉さんに、25億を俺に、25億をローザに。
ありがたくて涙が出る分配じゃないか。存在しない黄金のためにお前たちに75億支払えというのかね。
何よ、 兄さんの取り分は私たちの5倍じゃない。私なら踊り上がっちゃう好条件よ。
条件の4、分配金は親父の死亡時に遺産分配に含めて清算する。ただし手付金として俺たちの取り分の 10% を即納してもらう。支払いは来年3月までだ。
どうやクラウス兄さん、お父さんの財産をめぐる信頼を回復する絶好のチャンスやないか。さすがに75億の大金はお父さんが亡くなってからやないと無理やろ。だが手付けの7億半はなんとかできんこともないんとちゃうか。
半年で7億ってのはちょいとしんどい話だが、政界財界に友人が多いってのが自慢の兄貴なら。
本当なら今すぐ75億を一括で払ってもらいたいところ。でも兄さんの立場に配慮してとりあえず1割を納める誠意を見せてくれたら、残りの9割は遺産分配時に持ち越してくれていいってことなの。
If embezzling is technically not spending your money, okay. But once you embezzle the money, you take it on for yourself, and then you spend it. You were spending your own money. So you get double scolded. You get scolded once for embezzling, for, breaking the law, and then then it's your money, and then you get scolded for spending it to gift subs.
ね？1割程度の誠意なら兄さんにだって示せるんじゃない？
親父殿の財政状況調査を私に一任する権利を7億5千万で売りつけようというのかね。上等じゃないか。お前たちも成長したものだ。この私に取引を持ちかけられるようになるとは。
Now, if instead of embezzling, you stole his credit card and then used their credit card to gift subs, because you didn't take on any money, you just stolen their credit card. You're still using their money. You didn't steal any of their money yet. You're just committing fraud.
これらを兄さんが飲むなら、私たち兄弟はお父様の財産状況調査を兄さんに一任する。ただし、その調査結果は公弁の対象となる。当然よね。75億分、私たちの取り分が減るように調整されちゃったら悲しいもの。
原則的に文句は言わねえつもりだ。
I didn't say fraud is good. Just harder to scold you for fraud.
兄貴が綺麗にやってくれたなら。
Although I guess in theory you'll eventually be caught, and then you'll have to pay back all of the money that you were fraudulent with. So then you're just delaying your scold until you have to pay said money that you fraudulently took. Or I guess fraudulently used.
よっぽど露骨なことをしなけりゃ、俺たちはことを荒立てるつもりなんかねえんだぜ。俺たちだって早く遺産は欲しい。いつまでもグダグダして取りっぱぐれたくねえんだ。
公弁された場合の再調査は誰がするのかね。
兄さんでいいわ。多分これが兄弟で合議する最初で最後の機会だもの。そんなことにはならないと信じてる。
ローザもたまには言うわね。
That Kraus was not trusted whatsoever as the oldest sibling was by now so obvious that it required no explanation. The formerly tyrannical oldest brother would always abuse his privileges and infringe upon the siblings' shares. Response that the other three, now adults, were for the first time striking back at him by working together.
申し訳ないが、条件はまだ続くんや。条件5、この取り決めはお父さんの遺言状に優先する。後になってこの取り決めが保護になるような遺言が出てきちゃかなわんちゅうこっちゃな。
入念じゃないか。なら質問だが、 仮に本当に黄金が見つかった場合、どうするのかね。
それに対する支払いを兄貴が済ませてる以上、俺たちは本当に黄金が出てこようが
Okay,
どうでもいい。
I may have your way out of this. If you were to work your way up the corporate ladder inside Twitch and get like a gifted sub like stipend that you could use, and you use that to gift subs to a channel, I don't think I could scold you for that. Used a gift. So you steal one of my gift cards and use that?
俺たちの取り分は先払いってな感じになるわけだからな。
夢があっていいじゃない。この島をリゾート化するつもりなんでしょ。その工事の途中でひょっこり黄金が見つかるかもしれないじゃない。
Ah, but with how Twitch works, not all of that money goes to me. Half of it still goes to Twitch because of their Twitch. Eva let out a high-pitched laugh. Kraus watched without even
条
flinching.
件に7をつけてもらおう。私以外の兄弟が黄金を発見した場合、速やかに私に引き渡すこと。
ええ、もちろん保証するわよ。
Insignificant details. The others were forcing Kraus to pay money for some non-existent gold, but of course not ensure Kraus's position if they actually found the gold. From the beginning, this deal had been nothing more than a threat directed at Kraus. While the truth might be different, the probability that Kraus was embezzling his father's assets was extremely high. At last, Kinzo faced death, and it came time for the inheritance to be distributed. Surely some unpleasant facts would come to light. That situation would likely be a fatal wound to Kraus. They had latched onto that weak point, were threatening their brother under the veil of compromise, trying to wring out a huge sum of money. However, they'd let one thing slip their minds. The three of them had forgotten that their oldest sibling, who they couldn't defeat unless they banded together, was a very nimble thinker when it came to being crafty. Kraus relaxedly let out a gloated laugh as he spoke to Eva, who could not hide her smile. So certain she was of her victory.
とても良い話じゃないか。私もお前たちとの関係が疎遠になっていたことには非常に心を痛めていた。この条件を飲むことによって兄弟間の関係が再び有効なものにできるなら、喜んで話に乗らせてもらおうじゃないか。喜べローズ。取引は成立だ。
Rose's expression dimmed. When her brother started talking like this, the conversation would never change for the better. Eva was also sensitive enough to realize this. Therefore, even though Kraus had obediently accepted the deal, she was unable to wipe away her feelings of insecurity.
嫌に素直ね。兄さんらしくもないわ。
それはひどいじゃないか。私に下心があるというのかね。あるわけもないさ。お前たちと同じだ。
I'm just like all of you. It felt as though only that part was emphasized. The color of Rudolph's face darkened. I have a plan, just like all of you. That's what it sounded like to him. That gave him a sense of urgency. Trying to bring this near-finished discussion to a conclusion, he rushed to wrap it up.
ならいいんだ。じゃあ兄貴、ここにサインをもらえるか。今の話を書き出した俺たちの誓約書だ。人数分ある。同じ内容に全員がサインする。
Rudolph took 4 written contracts out of his breast pocket that had the details of their deal written
ク
on
ラウス
them.
兄さんの提案した条件7ももちろん今から追記するで。安心したってな。
兄貴、ペン使うか。
Rudolph took a fountain pen out of his breast pocket and offered it to Kraus. Kurose made as if to accept it, but then with a small laugh drew back his hand without taking it and spoke.
実はこの取り決めを確かに履行するために1点
Krause said that one sentence. All of the siblings felt at the same time as though something annoying was creeping up their backs.
ダメよ。もう決まった話よ。黙ってサインを。
エヴァ、何を焦っているんだね。もちろんサインはする。お前たちに黄金の分け前75億円分を約束する。親父殿の遺産分配の時、きれいさっぱり清算することも約束する。だが一点だけどうしても譲歩してもらいたい部分があるのだ。
何の話だよ。どの点が気に入らねえってんだ。
分け前の1割7億5000万円を即納する点だよ。お前たちの指摘通り私の財政状況は決して裕福ではない。数々の先行投資によって未来に必ず回収できると保証されながらも、今のこの時点では火の車であることは認めなければならない。つまり今すぐに動かせる金は全くないということだ。私は無能で詳細の嗅覚も鈍い。お前たちの言うところの弱り目の私には7億半も半年で動かせる力はないということ
だ。そんなはずはないでしょ。いい加減なことを言ってこの場をごまかす気？
遺産分配時に全て一括で清算する。
So what's his plan then?
1割を即納する条件を削除した。
Okay, so he just wants to say that he will pay them when the inheritance is liquidated,
それが
rather
私にサイ
than in
ンさ
6
せるための
months.
唯一の条件だ。
クラウス兄さん、この1割はな、あくまでも兄さんの誠意を図る数字なんやで。本当なら取引の余地もない話や。そこを100歩譲った上で、とりあえず1割の誠意でこの場を丸く収めちゃるっちゅう大サービスなんやで。そう説明した上でそこを断るっちゅうんは、互いの信頼関係にちょいと影を落とすんとちゃいますか？
Yoshi had a humble expression on his face and his hands clasped together. His eyes were not calm at all. Kurose had already seen through the shadow in the depths of those eyes.
お前たちは何を焦っているのか、それとも何に怯えているのかね。ローザ、私にだけは教えてくれんかね。
Yeah, stop crossing the street. It's suspicious.
他の兄弟たちには内緒でこっそりと。
別に私は。
よせよ兄貴。俺たちは兄貴がサインするかしないかしか聞いてない。妙な勘繰りも交渉もなしで。
ほう、私には交渉の余地もないと。立場が弱いのは私の方で公平な関係ではないとそう言いたいのかね。
Shivers began to crawl up Rudolph's back. Ever since he was a child, he'd never been able to overcome the height of the wall that separated him from his older brother. And now again he began to feel himself getting sucked into it, and the long shadow it
取引は
cast.
公平な関係であるべきじゃないのかね。この取引は私にとっては弟や妹たちと長いことを失ってきた信頼を取り戻し、それは私にとって緊急に解決したかった心のしこりだ。それが今日解決できてとても嬉しいと思う。だがお前たちもこの取引を急ぎ締結することがとても嬉しいんじゃないのかね。
Krause stared at each of the siblings. They avoided his gaze with animal-like instinct. Only Hideyoshi was slow avoiding it, so he was caught in Krause's
秀
gaze.
吉兄さん、あなたの会社非常に好調子だそうじゃないですか。トントン拍子で上場を果たし、業績も株価も右肩上がり。実にお羨ましいことです。
うちの人の話は関係ないでしょ。
だが株主たちに対する還元を怠ったのが悪かった。そして上場した時に足回りを固めきらなかったのもまずかった。気づいた時にはたちの悪い連中に 自社株をだいぶ買い集められていたらしいじゃないですか。
なんでそんな話知っとるんや。
秀吉さんと同じです。私に融資する人間などいないと裏を取れる程度に。私もそんな不思議があることはないじゃないですか。
Kraus grinned broadly. In contrast, Hideyoshi's face was turning obviously pale. Hideyoshi's company was a fast food chain operating company that he had started from nothing. Through Hideyoshi's management efforts, performance of the business repeatedly rose and magnified, and ultimately it succeeded in becoming a stock-listed company. The greatest advantage in being a stock-holding system is that, by selling stock certificates, a large amount of financing can be gained. That amount is far greater than the actual profits from the business. This made it an extremely effective way to gather the massive funds needed to grow his company even further. However, in exchange for financing the company, the stockholders have certain rights, namely the right to observe and guide the company that they have financed in order to raise its profits above their investment. So, who wanted to learn about stocks and investments today? That right is guaranteed to all stockholders, and they sometimes even use it to reorganize ineffectual management. It's the right to prevent the money that they've spent financing the company from going to waste by watching the management of the company. However, if they use this right forcibly, they can eject the former management and take over the company. Because the general body of all stockholders has the power to dismiss the management and nominate new management. Beardy is trying to invest in horrible spiritual wood. And people who hold more stock get to cast more votes. Yeah, the spiritual wood has a mantra. Hey, no one's taken their shirt off yet. They want it. It's even possible for them to make themselves president. Many companies, in order to prevent their stock from being bought up by malicious people and their position from being threatened, take some kind of defensive measures, such as having their own employees or people close to them buy a lot of stock certificates, in order to prevent a hostile group from securing the majority. However, since Hideyoshi's company had only recently become stock-listed, they hadn't had the time to strengthen those defensive measures. No, maybe Hideyoshi himself was so engrossed in the management of his company that he hadn't realized the dangers of being stock-listed. A while? In any case, there were people out there who would not let him get away with that naivety unscathed. They rapidly bought up Hideyoshi's company's stock and instantly gained a significant amount of power. They then sent anonymous documents to the stockholders meaning to capture the majority. The documents read, "The current management continues to make pointless investments and is ignoring the needs of the stockholders. Let us force the current management to retire, cut the current wasted investments, and let this company be born again as one that gives more back to the stockholders." It is very difficult to make the actual state of a company's management known. They maliciously twisted the figures Hideyoshi had produced from a tiny amount of sleep and a constant concern for his company and made him lose the trust of his stockholders. Their efforts had almost collected a majority of the stock in the company. At that point, even Hideyoshi noticed and started to buy back the stock. Stockholders who realized that the company was undergoing an acquisition maneuver demanded a ridiculous price for the shares that Hideyoshi was trying to buy back. They continually tortured Hideyoshi with no leeway in the negotiation of the price. One of the certainties of capitalism is that value will rise when both parties vie for the same thing. And one of the certainties of democracy is that the majority controls everything. In the end, whoever manages to buy up the most stock wins. So whoever has the most money wins. Yeah, we don't have uninvention. The sad bodily carrot. If Hideyoshi could obtain a large sum of money at this critical time, he would be able to avoid losing all of what he had built up. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. He couldn't wait for the division of Kinzo's inheritance, which may not happen for some time.
ルドルフの方も最近は大変だそうじゃないかね。海外は怖いとよく言うが、本当にそうらしいな。 アメリカの裁判は極めて感情的に決まる。彼らは外国人に寛大な判決など出しはし。
They should offer to trade this for the inheritance. A mealy wave bike.
先方と和解した方が結局は安上がりになると弁護士に忠告を受けたんじゃないのかね。
何の話？
まあ仕事上のトラブルさ。大したことじゃない。金で切りのつく話さ。
Kyrie quickly recognized what Rudolph's complicated expression meant. Her husband had gotten wrapped up in some kind of trouble without her knowledge and had been suffering alone.
その通りさ。世の中なんだって金で蹴りがつく。失った兄弟の絆だって買い戻せるようにな。アメリカは権利侵害などにはうるさい国だ。だが金さえあれば何でも和解できる。資本主義万歳だよ。もっとも和解金は数百万ドルにも及びそうだとの噂もあるがね。
Rudolph had been building a large amount of wealth with a certain type of niche market. However, a niche is a niche. Definitely not a sunny job. An American corporate giant was trying to accuse Rudolph's company of violating their rights. For various reasons, it was thought that winning the trial was extremely unlikely, and Rudolph was being pressured to surrender outright. But even so, there was a way to resolve it with money. If he could only pay that money, though it might be painful, he could still pick himself back up. But if he didn't pay, he'd lose everything. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now.
ローザは清く正しい妹だ。危険なマネーゲームなどには手を出さない。だが、お人よしな性分が災いしたんじゃないか。連帯保証人は気安く引き受けるものではないと思うがね。
それはフランス兄さんとは関係ない。
Rosa uncharacteristically laid bare her emotions and yelled, because she had thought she'd kept it a secret. As Kraus watched, he let slip a muffled laugh. There was nothing to fear. Every one of them, more than anything else, wanted a lot of money right now. In other words, the situation had been reversed. It's only Kraus, who they were threatening, had no urgent need for a large sum of money. Compared to that, the three of them who were threatening him wanted money quickly, no matter what the cost. So the longer Kraus postponed the deal, the greater the advantage to him. Kraus was very sly. He had known of their Achilles' heel from the beginning. Even so, he had not been certain. Therefore, he had hidden that until the very end, and upon closely and completely examining their attitude, he had struck back.
私もできることなら、可愛い弟や妹たちの危機に金を工面してやりたいと思っているよ。だが、残念なことに持ち合わせがなくてね。7億半もの大金が工面できるスポンサーに心当たりがあるなら。
Kraus's elated words were horribly blunt. The other siblings could do nothing more than listen, grinding their teeth. They could think of a response to that convenient, they wouldn't have kept up this charade. They'd entered this huge battle specifically because they'd exhausted all of their
もしお前
options.
たちがどうしてもこの兄を頼りたいというなら、私の口利きでスポンサーを探してやってもよいのだがね。おっと、私にはそんなものはいないと言っていたか。それではどうにもならんね。
Kraus's low, gloating laugh began to fill the parlor. The younger siblings, who had until now been driving the older brother into a corner, would do nothing more than grimace and grind their teeth.
冗談じゃないわ。兄さんに借りなんか作れるもんですか。冗談じゃない。冗談じゃない。
クラウス兄さんを頼ったらどう助けてくれるの？
言ったではないか。私にできるのは他のスポンサーを探すだけだよ。もちろん利息を融通してもらえるようには最大限 交渉するがね。
ちくしょう、足元見やがって。
あなた、落ち着いて。
落ち着いてるぜ。俺は極めて冷静だぜ。クソったりが。
Yuria grabbed her husband's hand. That action made him feel even more pitiful, so Rudolph shook it off. Christ laughed as though seeing that made him extremely happy.
こんな時、本当に親父殿の隠し黄金が見つかればいいんだがね。そうすればすぐに25億ずつをこの場で切り分けてやれるのだが、残念至極。非常に極めて実にどうしようもなく残念だ。今宵は兄弟みんなで酒を酌み交わしながら、親父殿の隠し黄金を、ベアトリーチェの碑文の謎をみんなで解き明かしてみようじゃないかね。仲良し兄弟が4人揃えばきっと解けない謎はないはずさ。
Once again, proving capitalism makes people evil.
面白いことを。それでその突きつけた条件というのは何か。
はい。クラウス様は黄金の発見を問わずに、その分け前としてエヴァ様、ルドルフ様、ローザ様に計75億円を支払うこと。
Why are you using the rude basket of dirt on Samus's?
ただしその1割を3月までに支払うこと。
クラウスの間抜けめ、弟たちに足をさらわれるとはな。実に愉快ではないか。しかし詰めが甘いようだな。
はい。クラウス様はそれをエヴァ様以下お3人が緊急に大金を用立てする必要があるため。
その程度のことは看破できるのか。中途半端に無能な男め。
Can't even manage incompetence.
今はどうしている？
話は一度中断されました。今はベアトリーチェ様の碑文の話をされています。
私の黄金がどこに隠されているのか、その謎を解こうとか。
はい。
Kinzo set down his glasses and snorted. He's basically admitting here that there is gold. He's basically just straight up admitting to, I have gold. Will they find it? I don't know. Let's see.
その時は私のすべての敗北だ。我が屍を骨のひとかけらまでしゃぶり尽くすがいい。愚か者どもの貪欲さが偉大なる魔法に奇跡を宿らせるのだ。だがもし奇跡の成就が先だったなら、ベアトリーチェは再びよみがえる。私が半生をかけて追い求めたあの美少がよみがえるのだ。おお、ベアトリーチェ、奇跡を落とす聖なる夜がやってくるぞ。悪魔たちとのゲームが始まるぞ。私はきっと打ち勝つ。絶対に生き残る。他の奴らの命はくれてやる。
Any evil person's like, I will definitely remain alive, is probably gonna die soon.
富も名誉も財産も黄金も何もいらぬ。ただお前の微笑みがもう一度見たいだけなのだ。
Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. Canon got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo signaled that he didn't need to.
なぜ私が黄金の隠し場所をわざわざ人目に触れるように晒したかわかるか？
いえ、
魔法の力はリスクで決まるからだ。ベアトリーチェの黄金を暴こうとする人間が多ければ多いほど。
He's got a second portrait, the exact same portrait of Beatrice, just like back here behind him.
その危険が高まれば高まるほどに、それでもなお成就できたとき、魔法の力は偉大なる奇跡を起こせるのだ。魔法とはつまりゲームなのだよ。優れている者が勝者になるのではない。勝者には魔法が与えられ優れるのだ。わかるか？生命の奇跡が数億分の1という神々しい確率に勝利するからこそ与えられるようにな。お前には少し難しいか。
Is he comparing magic to being the one sperm that fertilizes an egg? Am I understanding his like metaphor here?
申し訳ございません。
よい。つまりはこういうベアトリーチェの碑文の謎を解いた者には、私が築き上げてきた全てを与えよう。富、名誉、黄金、そして後宮家の家督。私が築き上げてきた全てだ。その謎に挑む資格があるのは何も私の息子たちだけと。たとえお前であっても、その謎を解けたなら全てを得る資格があるのだ。
はい。ですが、僕にはあのような難しい謎は分かりかねます。
無論だ。難解に作った。だがお前も挑め。それが我が魔法の奇跡を呼ぶ糧となる。誰もが挑み誰にも至れなかったら、その時はその時だが、奇跡が集い魔法の力が生まれたなら、その時こそベアトリーチェがよみがえるのだ。だからお前も挑め。誰もが挑め。そして我が魔法に力を捧げるのだ。わかるな？
はい、努力します。
For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and grabbing onto his head. Kennen stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo finally realized this.
もうよい。下がれ。酒棚に菓子の袋があろう。ダチンに持っていくがよい。
結構です。僕は家具ですから。
家具は菓子など食わぬ道理だが。ならばもう下がれ。
Just remember, your desk doesn't eat sweets.
はい。失礼いたします。
Kennen bowed and left the study. The door was closed, a heavy locking noise resounded. But that was not the sound of Kennen locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to lock himself up in his own study to isolate himself from the outside world. The only ones now he could trust were not the sons who shared his blood, but the servants who called themselves furniture.
南條先生、いかがなさいましたか？
ああ、源氏さん。いや、何？居場所がなくなりましてな。
The bitter laugh, Nanjo turned to face the door to the parlor. Seeing that because of that motion, Genji understood what Nanjo wanted to say. For the most part, Genji also understood the family's situation. It must have made him want to frown, knowing that right now in the parlor, the master he served was being discussed so disrespectfully. It would have been very difficult to gather that from his indifferent expression.
しかし、私にはわかりませんな。どうして金蔵さんは こんな挑発的なものを書かれたのでしょう。
Nanjo looked at the portrait of Beatrice. No, he actually directed his gaze beneath the portrait, the plate with the epitaph. Are we finally gonna get the epitaph and chat? We can all solve it and get a boatload of money and then use that to gift subs. So let's do this.
金蔵さんのチェスは昔から随分と遠大な読みで布石を打たれるものでした。いや、時には理解できない一手さえ。私ごとき凡庸では何を目論まれているのか。
私はこれを親方様の何かの遺言状ではないかと考えて、それを理解できた者に財産や家督をお譲りになられようということなのでしょう。
つまり私のようなよそ者に解かれてしまう前に兄弟4人で協力し合って謎を解けということではないか。金蔵さんは息子さんたちのことを口悪く罵ってはいますが、
As Nanjo said, this epitaph had been written to repair the relationship between the siblings. How heartwarming that would be. However, Nanjo and Genji both knew this was the one thing that could never be the case. Here were the two who held the longest relationship with Kinzo, more trust than his blood relatives. Even they could not guess at Kinzo's true motive.
親方様は一族のものでなくとも謎に挑む資格があると常々おっしゃっています。南條先生はいかがですか。
いやいや、この老いぼれには少々難解が過ぎますな。実は以前この碑文を手帳に記しましてな、夜な夜な寝る前に挑んでみたのですが実に難しい。お迎えが来るまでの間ゆっくり楽しむことができそうです。源氏さんこそいかがですか。
私めは親方様にお仕えする家具に過ぎません。黄金も財産も私には不要。
What about when your master dies and then no one is giving gold and assets? Wouldn't it be nice to have his gold then?
やれやれ、本当に謙虚な方です。だからこそ金蔵さんもあなたには心を許されるのでしょう。
ならば光栄なことです。
Nanjo lightly laughed in response, and once again looked at the epitaph.
故郷を貫く鮎の川、黄金鏡を目指す者よ、これを下りて鍵を探せ。
That which is written on the epitaph for the portrait of my beloved witch Beatrice is as follows. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved home of old. Okay. So we have a river through his beloved home, which I'm guessing is the island. Sweet fish could just mean it's not salty, so it's fresh water. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. And if it's, let's assume because Japan's in like the Sea of Japan and the Pacific Ocean, which is all salt water, I believe. So if it's fresh water, it has to be coming from like a spring. So you're looking for a spring and following it downstream. So finding the source of the spring and then following it further down. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two speak of. There the key to the Golden Land sleeps. Okay. A village could be something across the water, because I think we're not too far, because it was, what, only like a 20-minute boat ride here? So maybe you can see the opposing port. Shore the two speak of. Who are the two? They're the key to the Golden Land sleeps. So in search of, so there's a key to it somewhere. You who laid hand upon the key must journey as follows the Golden Land. On the first twilight, sacrifice 6 chosen by the key. Okay, so we gotta murder some people. Alright. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. Wait. To speak of. Are those the same 2 who are close? On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. Okay. So if we're reading this as is, so on the first night, 6 people will die. And it's chosen by the key, so I'm not sure if the key has names on it or something. But somehow there are 6 people chosen to die on the first night. On the second night, the 2 who are close, it says, shall be torn apart. That doesn't necessarily mean they're dead, but that could mean like a friendship or something that is irrevocably ruined. And that doesn't necessarily mean a couple, but to me that sounds like something more of a couple would do or say. On the third night, those who remain shall praise my noble name. Now, the question is the me here Beatrice? I'm guessing that's who, it's her epitaph, so I'm guessing it's her, but it could also be the head. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. I think that means on the fourth night, grandfather will be killed. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. Chest could be like the heart. So whoever the heart of the matter is. On the sixth, gouge the stomach. Okay, the glutton. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. Okay. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the ninth, the witch revives and none shall be left alive. Oh, so if we read this, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. How many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. But when the witch revives, none shall be left alive. And it's unclear if the 2 who are close to get torn apart also die on the second night. On the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you shall reach the home of the gold. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all of the golden land's gold. One resurrects all the dead people's souls. One even revives all the love they possessed. And one for the witch to eternally rest. Okay, so if you make it through all that somehow, you get all the gold. Everyone who died comes back to life. All, I guess, their, like, relationships or whatever are repaired. It's servant A kills person B, or vice versa. I guess they forget this ever happened or something. And then Beatrice never returns. Rest in peace, my beloved witch Beatrice. See, Samus says you have to listen to yourself when yourself tells you not to make bad choices.
第10の晩に旅は終わり、黄金鏡に至るだろう。しかしマリアは豆だな。ちゃんとメモしてるとは偉いぜ。
マリアは忘れっぽいからちゃんと書く。ママに言われたからちゃんと書く。
There was a notebook inside the handbag Marie was always carrying around, and Beatrice's epitaph was copied into it. Thanks to that, we were able to challenge the puzzle of the epitaph while here on this beach. For Jessica and the others, this was a puzzle they'd already tried to solve several times and already gotten bored with, but it was a first for me. I was so excited I couldn't stop. Really tickled my male sense of romance.
まず1行目。懐かしき故郷を貫く鮎の川。じい様の故郷ってどこだっけ？
戦前の後宮家は小田原のあたりに屋敷を構えてたって聞いたぜ。で、となりゃ小田原に流れてる鮎の泳ぐ川に関心がいくわけだろ？
まずはその川が起点になるからな。んで黄金郷を目指す者はそいつを下って鍵を探せとあるわけだ。小田原にある川ってなんだ？鮎が泳ぐ川だぜ。
小田原で鮎って言ったら早川だろうね。渓流釣りで有名だよ。
マリア魚嫌い。
マリアももう少し大きくなったらわかるぜ。鮎の塩焼きをベロベロベロってな。うまいぜ。さっき飯食ったばっかりだってのにもう。
ビスケットでもお持ちしましょうか？
悪い悪い。そんなつもりで言ったんじゃないぜ。君。
Shannonjen didn't have any afternoon chores for all, was faithfully keeping us company. I would have thought that as a servant, accompanying us would force her to take care of us and tire her out, but it seemed that wasn't so in her case. To the contrary, it seemed she was having fun joining in on the conversation with people of a similar age. When I asked, she told me that she was a live-in worker, so normally the only person close to her age was Jessica. I get it, that must be pretty wearisome.
さて、小田原で鮎の川って言えば早川だってことは分かった。となりゃ下るしかねえよな。早川を下ると何があるんだろうな。
下流に出て海に出ると思います。
そうさ、河口部に出る。そして碑文の3行目には川を下ればやがて。ちなみにそういう河口部は大抵大昔から輸送の要衝になってて大きな都市があるもんさ。ここが次の。
なかなかいい筋だね。バトラ君の想像通りそこは大昔にとても栄えたことだよ。小田原城があるところだね。
修学旅行で小田原城に行った気がします。素敵なお城でしたよ。
ああ、私も小田原城だったぜ。洋館に住んでてなんだが、やっぱり日本人は和風の方が落ち着くよな。
マリアお城退屈。遊園地がいい。
そうかそうか。よしよし。黄金を見つけたらこのバトラ様が気前よく遊園地を一日借り切って遊ばせてやるぜ。しかし小田原城の隠し黄金。お？こりゃなんだかいかにもって感じだよな。
まあ2年前の私たちもそこまでは行き着いたぜ。小田原で鮎の泳ぐ川を下った里、そこが多分小田原城あたりだろうってところまでは私。問題は次の行だろ。さてバトラの鎮推理はどこまでいけるか。
Jessica grinned broadly. It's like she's saying that if the puzzle could be solved so easily, she would have found it long ago. Damn it, I'll definitely find it and keep it all for
4行
myself.
目。その里にて2人が口にし岸を探れ。2人ってのが何のことかわからねえが、とにかく岸だな。で岸ってなんだよ。岸って名前がつく地名でもある。
蘇我岸という地名が小田原にあるんだそうですよ。
おお、詳しいな。ってことはなんだよ。シャノンちゃんも黄金を狙って謎解きに挑戦してるんだな。となりゃ俺たちはライバルだぜ。
別に黄金なんて興味は。ただ以前にジョージ様から教えてもらっただけで。
2年前の私たちも同じ推理に行き着いたってわけさ。わざわざ地図を広げて調べたんだぜ。
小田原城の北に5キロくらいだったかな。そこには確かに蘇我岸という地名が。でもそこからがわからないんだ。次の5行目にはその土地のどこに鍵があるかは記してない。マリアちゃん、読んでくれるかい？
そこに黄金鏡への鍵が眠る。 読めた。
蘇我岸ったって広いだろうし、かつてそこに後宮家の家があったわけでもない。その広大な土地のどこかに鍵が隠されててノーヒントってんじゃ。こいつは
確かにな。鍵が手に入らないことにはその先の行に進めないぜ。ジョージ兄貴、蘇我岸ってのはどんなとこなんだ？
さあね、行ったことはないからわからないけど、地図によると山の中みたいだよ。確か浅間山の山麓みたいだったね。
なんだかパッとしねえな。宝のありかを隠した謎ってのはもっとぴったりとハマるもんじゃねえのかよ。どうも蘇我岸ってのがそもそも間違いって気がするぜ。
私は蘇我岸を疑ってるぜ。私たちが知らないだけで、例えばじいさまの子供時代を過ごした家とかがあるかも。一行目に懐かしき故郷をって行があるくらいだもんな。シャノンはじいさまによく酒とか継がされてたろ？昔話とか聞かされたことないのか？
親方様は昔の話はほとんどされません。ただ後宮家が滅びかけた関東大震災について非常に人事のように話されることがありましたので、関東地方よりずっと遠方にお住まいだったかもしれません。
後宮本家は小田原に住んでたかもしれないけど、分家はその限りじゃなかったろうね。おじいさまはよく自分のことを分家も分家、後継ぎに最も縁遠かったと言われるくらいだからね。
ってことはつまり懐かしき故郷ってのがすでに小田原じゃない可能性もあるってこ。
じいさまの故郷なんて聞いたこともないぜ。聞いても素直に教えちゃくれねえだろうしよ。
懐かしき故郷というのが後宮家のルーツを指さないのであれば、もちろん蘇我岸の疑いが晴れたわけじゃないけれども、例えば幼少の頃を小田原で過ごし、その後遠方へ引っ越した可能性もあるだろうし。
さっきから何の話か。
Maria had been completely left out of the conversation and now sat puffing out her cheeks in boredom.
つまりだな、黄金すごろくの最初のスタート地点が決まらないことには何も始まらないってことだぜ。最初の5行で見つかるのは鍵だ。鍵なんてなくても扉はぶち壊して入ることだってできるはずだぜ。とりあえず最初の5行をすっ飛ばしてその先の推理に入ってもいいんじゃねえか。
おお、その発想はなかったぜ。まあいいや、どうせ暇つぶしなんだ。続きを聞かせろよ、バトル。
でもその先からは急に物騒になるんですよね。
Shannon Chen frowned slightly, looking back at Maria's notebook to recall what was written there. All right, I agree.
第1の番に鍵の選びし6人を生贄に捧げよう。いきなり物騒になるな。
第2の番には寄り添う2人を引き裂けときたもんだ。恋仲を破談させるのか、文字通り引き裂くという意味なのか分かりかねるけど、どっちにせよ気持ちの悪い話だぜ。
その第2の番の解釈を別にしても、第1の番に6人、第4の番から第8の番までで5人。
Ignore that test message.
少なく見積もっても11人が生贄にされなきゃ
This
ならない。
testing but actually worked. And it does.
ベアトリーチェが蘇るための
なるほど、魔女復活のための生贄か。そういう解釈にもなるな。その結果第9の番に魔女が蘇って最後は極めつけだな。
第9の晩に魔女は蘇り、結局はみんな死んでしまいます。
それでようやく次の第10の番にゴールってことになってんな。みんな死んじまうのに黄金鏡へ至るだろうって言われても
鍵を手に旅に出た当人も生き残れないに含めるのかどうかは解釈の分かれるところだね。
しかしよ、最後のところには面白いことが書いてあるぜ。ゴールした後、魔女からもらえる4つの宝の行だよ。一つは全ての黄金。問題は次だ。 全ての死者の魂を蘇らせるとあるぜ。みんな死んじまったっていうのとかけてるよ。
それを言われれば、次の失った愛すらも蘇ら第二の晩の寄り添いし二人を引き裂け。
そうだね。そして4つ目も第9の晩にかけてある。第9の晩に蘇った魔女を4つ目の宝が再び眠りにつかせている。
好意的に解釈すりゃ死んだり別れさせたりと忙しいが、最後には全部チャラになるわけだな。目覚めた魔女も再び眠るし、手元にはたっぷりの黄金だけが残るって寸法だぜ。
死んだり蘇らせたり別れさせたりくっつかせたりと、
ついでに起きたり眠ったりな。
やれやれ。せっかくの隠し黄金の話も魔女の話が絡んじまうと急にうさんくさくなっちまうぜ。
違いないな。
I laughed along with Jessica. After all, a witch was just ridiculous. Of course, once we started laughing like that, Maria, who believed in witches, got angry.
魔女はすごい。魔法で何でもできる。殺すことも、生き返らせることも、愛を与えることも、奪うことも。空も飛べるし、姿を透明にできるし、黄金もパンも生み出せる。
いけね。悪い悪い。冗談。
Jessica apologized, sticking out her tongue, but Maria didn't accept it. She grabbed her notebook back out of my hands and opened it to the other pages to try to prove that witches existed. Those pages had colored illustrations of witches drawn on them, and conveyed the fantastical image Maria had of witches well. They're not depicted as the normal, sinister, crooked-nosed hags flying around on brooms, but as dreamlike people with mysterious powers who could do anything and wore beautiful dresses. Just what you'd expect from an imaginative young girl. Dancing through the sky, crossing a rainbow, dancing around all night, magical teacups and teapots that would never empty no matter how much you poured out of them. Flourish of their wands, the stars. Hi, Cat. Cat, I cannot see because of your butt. The stars in the sky would become candy and pour down, and flowers that produce sweets would bud by the roadside. To Maria, witches were the sole thing that could give form to the magical dreams that so captivated her. Cat, the last thing enriching her reality, which revealed more and more of its bland nature to her with every inch she grew. That was why Maria believed in witches. She didn't want that dream to be insulted. Say hi, Bubby, actually. Off you go doesn't mean right in front of my screen. For that very reason, nor did she want the epitaph, which affirmed the existence of witches, to be insulted. Because the witch Beatrice is Maria's dream.
マリアちゃんにとっては、これは黄金の隠し場所を示すものじゃなくて、
Descriptive eat doubt. I don't know what that is.
魔女を蘇らせるための魔法なんだって。
Yes, my invention command is not as fancy as Beardy's. Mine literally just has, I think, one is like a bunch of nouns, one is a bunch of adjectives. Actually, it might be two. It might be adjective, adjective, noun. Let me take a look at the command, actually. I don't know how eat is an adjective. Invention. Okay, so it's adjective, noun, and then noun a second time. I still don't know how eat is a noun. I did not make these lists, I just pulled them off the internet. So, I did not bet them. I probably should have betted them for bad words, now that I think about it. So it was the single bridge between Maria and the witch. Maria was very angry and clung on to George Anarchy. Jessica and I scratched our heads and apologized. It might not be possible to smooth things over again like the time she got mad in front of the portrait. Maria didn't want to be easily consoled. Oh, eat my eats. As Jessica and I hung our heads, wondering what we could do, Shannon Chan timidly opened her mouth in our place. Yeah, eat my eat.
ご存知ですか？私たち使用人の間では、ベアトリーチェ様の怪談が語り継がれているんですよ。
そうだったっけ？シャドウ、聞かせてやれよ。私は知らないんだけど、使用人の間じゃかなり有名な話らしいぜ。
何の話だ？怪談？
うん。僕たちが生まれる前からある話らしいね。母さんにも話を聞かされたことがあるよ。
はい。この島にお屋敷が建てられてから、当時の使用人たちは、お屋敷には昼と夜で違う主がいると囁き。
The tale that Shannon told was like a typical campfire ghost story. There was a forest with a witch living inside it, and inevitably the witch was going to pay the mansion a visit. At some point, this ghost story naturally sprouted up between the servants.
ちゃんと閉めたはずの窓や扉や鍵がもう一度見回りに来たら開いていたとか、消したはずの明かりがついていたり、つけたはずの明かりが消えていたり、置いたはずのものがなくなっていたり、置いた覚えのないものが置かれていたり、そういうことがあるたびに、古い使用人たちは魔女が姿を消してお屋敷を訪れ、いたずらをしていったのだろうと囁き合ったそうです。ほらいる！ベアトリーチェはいる！
ああ、いるよな。私も昔よく登校の時に限ってカバンが見つからなかったりしたもんだぜ。
Maria puffed out her chest with an ooze, though this was the final proof that the witch existed. If I said it out loud, Maria would probably be hurt again, so I didn't, but... I mean, you hear that kind of story everywhere. Depending on the place, might be blamed on fairies or something. Or my cat. Just that on this island they call it the witch. Of course, you'd expect that walking around a vast, elegant mansion at night would be a little unsettling. It's an island devoid of people. Since the mansion is so drafty, my cat blocks me from reading things. Walking around in the night of a thunderstorm would certainly be eerie.
他にも鬼火や輝く蝶々が舞っているのを見たという使用人も、カノン君もそれらしいものを以前夜の見回りの時に見たことがあると言ってました。あと最近ではお屋敷の中で深夜に不思議な足音をよく聞くと使用人の間で話題です。私たちは肖像画の中のベアトリーチェ様が姿を消してお屋敷の中を散歩しているんだろうと囁き合ってるんですよ。ずいぶん前ですが、私もそうかもしれない足音を夜の見回りの時に聞いたことがあります。
ひゅー、そりゃ怖えな。
でも怯えることはないんですよ。ベアトリーチェ様は親方様とは異なる、だから変に怯えたりしないで敬意を持っていれば決して悪いことはしないのだそうです。
ただし敬意を持たないと恐ろしいんだったね。
はい、私が勤めを始める直前に階段を転がり落ちて腰に大怪我をして辞めた方はベアトリーチェ様のことを悪く言っていたそうです。だから使用人たちはベアトリーチェ様のお怒りに触れたのだろうと噂し合う。バトラとチェシカ、きっと 怒りに触れる。
わあ、悪かったぜ。お怒りに触れちゃたまるね。謝るよ、マリア。もちろん、魔女様にも謝る。ベアトリーチェ様、ごめんなさい。
私も謝るぜ。ベアトリーチェ様、これで魔女様。
わかんない。魔女は気まぐれだから、許してくれるときは許してくれるし、
それは困った。マリアちゃん、バトラ君とジェシカちゃんがベアトリーチェ様のお怒りに触れないようにするいいおまじないとかないかな。何か魔除けとかさ。
By relying on Maria, who was proud of knowing the most about witches, George was trying to revive her self-esteem. I was once again forced to admire his ability to comfort children. Crossing her arms and pondering seriously as to whether there was some charm capable of protecting Jessica and myself from the witch's wrath, Maria began flipping through the pages of her notebook. I thought it was just a simple scribbled diary, but it turns out there were also pages that looked like they'd come from a book on black magic. She was intently comparing several such pages, onto which she'd copied what looked like magic circles. It looked like the black magic copy wasn't limited to grandfather alone. Perhaps she had finished her research. She vigorously closed the notebook with a snap, threw it in her handbag, and began fishing through the bag's contents. It seemed that various jumbled up things were in there. For a while, she continued to take out various pieces of junk, although they were probably important magical items to her, and repeatedly threw them back in, saying they were wrong. She looked a little humorous, almost like Santa Claus, deliberating over which present to give. Finally, it seemed that she'd excavated what she was looking for. With a face unimaginably brighter than the difficult expression she had worn until now, she stuck them out to Jessica and me. As I reached out to grab it, I noticed that it was a very cheap-looking charm. It looked like a bracelet made from a plastic rosary, with a scorpion motif metal attached. And you often find cheap accessories that correspond to the constellations. It felt like a gift that you might win at the crane game in the arcade. It really looked like something like that. There were two, probably one for me and one for Jessica. However, considering the odd fact that there were two of them, they looked like cheap manufactured goods. It's quite hard to think of them as magical items.
これを私とバトラーに？
このお守りならベアトリーチェも大丈夫。サソリは魔除けの力があるから。
サソリにそんな力がね
え。バトラが信じない。
Alright, take care, Samses. I'd inflamed Marie again because I had said too much. Maria took out her notebook again and turned and pointed to page after page, going on and on about how scorpions had holy power and been drawn on magic-repelling magic circles since ancient times.
他の使用人の子から聞いたことがあります。サソリって魔術では魔除けのシンボルとして描かれることもあるんだとか。
へえ。
サソリは悪い魔法や災厄から守ってくれる。
Well, Maria, I hate to say there's probably some disasters approaching soon.
そしてエメラルドは心に平和をもたらしてくれる。だから二重で効果がある。
ほんとだ。サソリがエメラルドを抱いて守ってるね。なるほど。これはご利益がありそうだよ。
I really wanted to make fun of this worthless-looking charm, but I watched Marie explaining the charm with all of her heart and realized that she prepared them out of consideration for us. It felt as though, even if it were just a prize from a game center, it would still be beneficial. Material quality isn't what's important about charms, it's the strength of the feelings behind them. I like to think I have enough respect for myself not to make fun of those.
そっか。ありがとな。ベアトリーチェ様には謝ったけどよ。万が一たたりがある時でも、マリアのこのお守りのおかげで安心だぜ。な、ジェシカ。
ああ、そうだぜ。ありがとうな、マリア。
心に平安が欲しいときは腕につける。お財布に入れるとお金が減らなくなる。ドアノブにかけておくと悪いものが入ってこられなくなる。便利なお守り。それはすごい効能ですね。マリア様が自信を持って進めるお守りなら、きっと頼もしいものと思います。
As Shannon-chan tapped her hands together lightly, Maria stuck out her chest. She was completely cheered up again. It would keep her in this good of a mood. It would probably be worth it to let Maria lead the discussion for a while longer. When you think about it, Chen shared in our excitement when we talked about the gold's hidden location. I think she had gotten a little bored. While eating the cookies Kumasawa-san had baked, Jessica and I asked Maria this and that about black magic. Maria happily chatted away in response to our questions. For each one, George, Aniki, and Chen acted surprised and agreed with everything she said. The color of the clouds in the sky grew progressively heavier, but the cousins really enjoyed communicating freely after 1 year of separation.
Ima, 額にポタって来なかったかい？
どうだろうな。
George Aniki rubbed his forehead and looked up at the sky. Considering the color of the sky and the dampness of the air, raindrops could easily have started falling down at any moment. It also seemed like the wind had gotten a little stronger.
マリアポタッと来ない。マリアだけ来ない。
安心しろ。俺にも来ねえぜ。それに今夜になれば誰にも等しく大雨が降るだろうよ。
そうだね。そろそろ引き上げた方がいいかな。
Chen looked down at her watch. It may already be well into the evening.
もう仕事に戻る時間かよ。
はい、皆様と一緒で楽しい時間を過ごさせていただきました。ありがとうございました。
熊沢さんにクッキーをごちそうさまって伝えてね。さあみんな、片付けを手伝おう。
Chen declined their help, saying that this was a servant's job. It's my cat's job to block my view, apparently. Picking up a dropped fork before the waitress has to is like my purpose in life. We folded up the blanket, gathered up the trash, and helped clean everything up.
ゴミが逃げる。
そいつは逃がさないぜ。
マリアが拾う。
マリア、靴を濡らすなよ。怒られる。
Maria chasing after some trash that the strong winds had sent flying was just like an extension of our playtime. By the time we finished cleaning up, the wind started blowing very strongly. It looked like a good chance to head back.
皆様のおかげで助かりました。ありがとうございました。
もう本当に時間がないみたいだね。先に戻っていいよ。
George Aniki perceived from her hurried appearance that very little of her free time was left. Oh, cat, no! Cat skipped ahead a bunch of stuff. Let's go back.
源氏さん、時間には厳しい人だからな。定時に持ち場についてないと厳しそうだぜ。
また後でね。
はい。それで
After
は
making a respectful bow, Shannon hurried off in the direction of the rose garden.
じゃあ、俺たちもゲストハウスへ戻ろうぜ。テレビでも見て、くつろ。
テレビ見る。
なら決まりだな。戻ってみんなで一緒にテレビでも見ようぜ。
Even Maria, who was still not tired of playing, agreed when she thought about watching TV. We headed up the gentle stairs and returned to the rose garden. The wind had become very strong, and roses shook throughout the garden like ripples on water. This might be our last chance to see these beautiful roses. Tonight's typhoon is sure to ruin them.
今夜の風でやられちまうかもしれないな。
そうだな。バラたちもラッキーだったと思うぜ。台風の前にバトラたちを歓迎できたんだからよ。
花はいつか必ず散る。でもだからこそ咲き誇る今をめでることができるんじゃないかな。
そうだな。マリアもよく目に焼き付けとけ。今この瞬間が今年で一番のバラなんだぜ。
I'm rotating my monitor.
目に焼き付ける。
Right then, Maria suddenly clapped her hands. It looked as though she had remembered
マリア
something.
のバラ、台風で飛ばされちゃう。
ああ、ジョージの兄貴に目印のリボンをつけてもらった。
See, Maria remembered where the rose was. She ran at full speed. The rest of us followed her.
あれはどこ？確かこの辺だ。
We searched everywhere around that area, but after all, it was only a single flower amongst all of these roses. Even though we knew it was somewhere close by, it wasn't proving easy to find. The winds that made up the front lines of the typhoon were making the roses throughout the garden undulate, almost like it was teasing us by making the location of Maria's rose impossible to
こ
find.
こじゃなかったかな。少し手分けをして探してみようか。
そうだな。人海戦術で行こうぜ。なんだよ、マリア。
We made to split up and search. Maria tugged on my jacket with an unhappy face. Felt like her intention was to stop us from going to another
なんだよ、
place.
どうした？
マリアのバラここにある。
でも現にないぜ。この花壇の裏側だったかもな。みんなで探せば早いぜ。
ここなの。マリアのバラはここで探して。
Maria stomped her feet in irritation. She was pointing at the spot, saying it was definitely there, yet it actually wasn't. Yet if we went to go search elsewhere, she got mad. We were at a loss for what to do. For a while, we would have to stay with Maria and pretend to search through this rose thicket. Maybe she's saying that it should be here but isn't. Maria became increasingly ill-tempered.
マリアがすっかり機嫌を損ねちまった。
マリアはたまにすごくどうでもいいことを気にし始めちゃうんだよ。それがどうにかなるときはいいんだけど。
ないものは探せないしね。困ったな。
Just as we were starting to despair of her way out of the situation, Maria shouted out loudly. In the direction she was waving her hand, Auntie Rosa's figure was visible. Maybe she wanted to look at the garden one last time before the typhoon came, or maybe she had some business at the guest house. Auntie Rosa was coming from the mansion. She quickly noticed her daughter's voice and came over.
あらあら。どうしたのみんな。
I think we'll find out what happened to the rose next time.